Hello, welcome to this video. Today we are going to learn how to connect to our MySQL database using GORM. So GORM is the ORM for Go language. So it's the package that we use to interact and connect with our database. So now we have to now install the GORM package in our application. So to install it, we open our terminal. Okay, so in our terminal, we will do go get then the GORM package we are installing. Okay, so gom.io/gom. So this is how to install the GORM package. So now let's click enter. Good. Now we see we get our GORM added to our package over here successfully. Okay, good. Now we can begin to use it. Now, before we start using it, we have to go into our config folder we created, and inside it, we create a file called config.go. So this file is going to handle all our configurations for us, and we connecting to our database will be handled also over here. So now let's instantiate this file to be a Go module. So we will do package config so that we can actually export it as a module in anywhere in our Go application. Good. Now let's go ahead and import our GORM package that we just installed. So import, then we can do the gom.io/gom. Okay, now we have it imported. So now let's proceed and create our function to handle the connection. Good. Now because we have not yet used it, we are getting an error over here. So when we hover it, you see imported and not used. Now we are going to use it. Now we will first create our configuration struct. So we will do type, then we will do config, then we will say that it is a struct. Okay, good. And inside it over here, we will create or declare a variable called db, and this db is going to be an instance of the GORM package. So we will just make it an instance of the pointer to the GORM. So we will do asterisk, then gom.db. Okay, good. Now we see it over here. Now anytime we are going to access the GORM package, okay, in connecting to our database, we just come to the configuration module over here, then we come inside and come to the config struct that we have created, and then we access the db over here, which is pointing to the GORM package over here. Good. Now let's go ahead and declare other variables that we'll be needing. Okay, so we will do our database credentials that we will be needing. Okay, so we will do our database username, our database password, and all that. So we will start with db user, and we will say that it is going to be a string, and we will do db password, and we will say that one too will be a string. Okay, good. db host, also a string, then db name, also a string. Okay, so this will help us to save it in our file and access it. Okay, good. Now we are going to create our function to initialize our configuration and our database connection as well. So we will create a function and we will call it init config. So basically to initialize our configurations. Okay, good. Now we will say that this function is going to return our configuration, is going to return the pointer of our config struct over here and an error as well in case anything happened. So we would say this is returning our config over here, then also an error if any error. Okay, so we see it over here. So whatever that this function is going to return, we will just add it over here in the separate braces over here. Good. Now we enter into it with our curly braces. Then we now do all our configurations and connections over here. Now we are going to use another package called Viper. Viper is a Go package that we use to handle or store and retrieve every data or credentials from a YAML file so that we can have all our database username, database password in a YAML file, and the Viper is going to help us retrieve it into our config file for our configuration. So now let's first install the package so that we can use it. So in our terminal, we will do go get. Okay, we can do the show, then we go to github.com/spf13/viper. Okay, let's get it if everything goes through. Okay, we see it's downloading. Okay, good, it's finished downloading. We are having an error over here. Let's see, it's missing return. Good, meaning that if you come here, we see the error here. You see missing return. Okay, it's a missing return. That means that we have declared in this function that is going to return a pointer of the configuration and an error, but we've not yet returned it. Good. So when we finish with setting up this function, it will be resolved. Now let's continue with the setup inside our initializing configuration function. So we will first do Viper dot. So in the Viper package, there are some methods that we have to use to set and manage our configuration credentials. Good. So we will first say Viper set config name. Okay, so set config name is a method in Viper, and basically we are setting the configuration name. So our configuration name, as we see it over here in our file here config, so it will be in a string, and we will say the configuration name is called config. Good. Now we will continue the same way. Okay, let's duplicate it, and there is another one called configuration type. So instead of the name, we will do type. Good. And we will say that the type is going to be a YAML. So good. And we have to create the YAML in our root directory. So let's create that and say config.yaml. Good. Now we are having an error here because we have not yet imported our Viper into this file that we are using in our configuration file. So let's import the package we just installed. So now, okay, so when it comes to quick fix, we see it over here, import. Good. Now we see it's been imported in our file over here, so the error should be fixed. Okay, so another one method that we will need is to add our config path. So there is a method also in the Viper called add config path, and we are going to say that the path is just the root directory. Okay, so where the YAML file is. Good, so it's the root directory. Good, now we see the error has been taken care of. Great, now let's continue. So in our YAML file, we will set our credentials. So we will do db underscore user, all caps, underscore user. Okay, we also do db underscore password, db underscore host, then db underscore name for the database name. So we will define our database username, the password, the host, and the name all over here. So now let's define them. So the DB username, since we are using our local development, I'm using PHP my admin to handle the management. So the username is root. Great, and the UB password is going to be empty. Okay, it's going to be empty. Then our host is going to be localhost, and the port is 3306 for MySQL. Okay, good. And our DB database name, our DB name is going to be we will say auth underscore system. Okay, good. Now we can now use these credentials in our configuration file over here. So now let's continue and set the default for the DB username and the password over here, and point it to the configuration YAML file. So now let's do that below here. So we will do Viper dot. We use a method in Viper package called set default. We see it over here, set default. Good. And we are going to set the default for the credentials that we have over here in our YAML file. So first in a string, all of them in a string. So first in a string, we will say the DB username we have over here. So in case it is not there, so let's say DB username, then we will do the default to be root. Okay, so in case we don't have it configured over here in our YAML file, so it will set the default to root, and the same thing for the rest as well. So we will do the password, and we will say it is empty. Okay, we will do the host as well. We will do the name as well, the same way. So the host also, we have it over here, localhost colon 3306. We bring it over here. Then our DB name too to be auth system. Okay, now we have it over here. Good. Now Viper will handle all that, automatically go into our YAML file and check it. If there is no value, it will come and use the default values over here. Now we will tell our function to now let Viper read the values in the configuration. So we will do Viper dot a method in the Viper package called read in config. Okay, we have it over here, read in config. Good. And that is what will read the data in our configuration. Good. Now we are going to connect to our database. So we will create and declare a variable, and let's call it DSN. Okay, good. Now we will let Viper, since we have now set the default name, we have set everything, we have read the configurations over here. Now the data Now Viper will help us get the data and just connect it to the database. So we will do Viper. So we want to now get the username. Okay, so we'll do Viper dot get string. Okay, we have that over here, and we will say we are getting the DB user over here. Good. Then we will do plus, then we will concatenate it with a column like this. Okay, we do another plus and concatenate it with our database password. So it is, we can get it from Viper. Viper will help us get it here. Viper dot get string. Okay, we see it over here. Get string, and we are getting the password as well. Good. Then we will again concatenate it with, since that's the password, and we will just bring in our TCP protocol. Good. So that one too will be in a string, and we will say at TCP. If we are not using a Viper package to handle the management, the configuration management credentials, there is a way. I will just show you how you can straightforward write the code for this without using the Viper. Okay, so let's first finish with this one. Good. So in the TCP, I will now do our braces over here. So it's going to help us connect with our host. Okay, so the TCP, then we will do plus Viper get string over here, then we will bring in our host. Great. Like that. Then we will now close it like this. Okay. With a forward slash, then we will now bring in lastly our database name. So we will now concatenate it as well. So it will be Viper dot the get string, then our database name, db underscore the name. Okay, good. Now lastly, we will concatenate it with the parameters or the settings of our database. Okay, good. Now since we have our database name over here, good. So lastly, we will concatenate it with, so we will specify the parameters of our database. So first, we are going to say define the character set of our database. So we will do char set, and we will say that is going to use UTF-8 MB4, and we will also set the pass time for the database. So pass time, and we will say that it is going to be true because we are going to use it. Okay, so we will set that one also to true. Okay, and we are going to set the location to be local since we are using it locally. Good. So location, the locale to be equal to local. Okay, good. Then we are done. Great. So now without a Viper package to do the management system, so we are using the Viper simply because so that we can easily, if we are changing the credentials of the database, we can just come here and just change it, the DB database username, the password, the name and all that. Okay, so in case you are not using the Viper package, you just simply put all together in one string without the Viper, and it will look like this. It will look like this. So we would have declared our variable like as DSN, and we will bring in our curly our parentheses. Then we will just do this. So we will just, this is the standard for that. So you see the username over here, the password over here, the TCP pointing to our local host. So if you can do the local host over here, or 127.0.0.1. Okay, the same for local host. Then we will do our authentication system over here. Then we will do our character set definition and our pass time and our local. So it would have been like this, simple like this. Okay, so because we want to manage it very nicely and graciously, we just use the Viper package to handle that. That's why we use the Viper to get the username, and it will be here, and we concatenate it with the colon over here. So this is the colon, and followed by the password. So we will use the Viper to get the password also over here. Then we will continue with our at TCP protocol over here. Then we will enter into it and now do our host over here. So this is the host that the Viper got for us. So basically like that. So it's the same thing. Okay, so now let's get rid of it since we are using the Viper. So now we will let GORM enter into it and now open our MySQL database using the GORM. So the GORM will actually handle that one for us. So we will now do the DB, declare a variable called DB, and we are going to check this where we are going to connect it to our database. So now the DSN has stored all the username, the password, and everything for us the way GORM wants it. You see it over here. So now we are going to now connect it. So we will do the DB, we will declare a variable called DB, and in connection, in case we have any error, we will just catch it over here. So we will declare it as GORM dot open. We will use the method in GORM called open. So we are going to open it using MySQL. So we will do MySQL over here. Then we will say the MySQL is going to open it for us. So we will do open. Then we will come here and just come and call the DSN variable that we have created to store the database credentials in the way GORM wants it. So we will bring it in over here and we will say DSN. So simple as that. So we are declaring a variable called DB, and it's actually going to use the GORM package to open the database. And since we are going to use MySQL, so the reason why we are getting an error over here is that we are supposed to install the MySQL driver for the GORM package. So the GORM package can handle MySQL, Postgre, SQLite, and all that. But since we are using MySQL, so we have to install the driver for the MySQL, which will work seamlessly with the GORM package. That's why we are having an error here. So it is in that driver package that we have the open method, and it's going to connect to our database using the DSN variable that we have declared here. So let's first go ahead and install the driver, the MySQL driver for the GORM package. So in our terminal over here, we'll do go get gorm.io slash the driver we are going to be using. So in this case, MySQL. So say gorm.io slash driver slash MySQL. So now let's install the MySQL driver. Good. The MySQL driver is installed successfully with no error. Now since we have it now inside, now let's import it in our file over here so that the error will be fixed. So let's do a quick fix and come here. Now we see now we can import it over here. Now if you check it up here, we see it has been imported successfully. So it will take care of that. Good. Now let's continue. So in case in connecting to the MySQL database there is an error, okay, let's handle that graciously. That's how come we have it over here, so that this will help us handle it graciously. So we will say that if an error occurs, so if this error occur, meaning that if the error is not nil, so it's not nil, meaning that there is an error inside over there when connecting to the database, you declare it and we will return, and you will say that you declare it to be, we will return it to be nil. Okay, good. And that takes care of that. And now we are going to return it. If you remember in our function, we said that this init configuration function is going to return the pointer of the configuration over here. So it's going to return the pointer of the configuration struct that we have over here and an error as well. So now let's return it. The reason we are having an error over here because we have not yet used the variable db. So after connecting to the database, good. So now we will add it to the return of this function. So now we are going to say that this function, in case there is no error, this function is going to return the pointer. So we will say the pointer of the configuration of the config struct that we have, and we are now going to declare as we have defined it in the struct over here. So the db that we have over here, take note of that, the capital D and the capital B. So you will see that the db is going to be the db that we have over here. Do you see that? Good. That's connected and open the MySQL database for us. So it's going to be the db, then you bring our comma, then we will do the db user also, and you will say that it's going to be viper get string, then the username. Okay, so the get string, then we will say db user. Alright, then we will again continue with our db password. Okay, so we are using the same name that we use in the struct over here. Good. Else we will get an error. Now we will continue and we will use say viper get string. So you say db underscore password. Okay, good. Then let's do same for the host and the name as well. So we have the host, and that is going to be the db host. Okay, and the name too, and that is going to be the name. Okay, good. Now we have it over. So this is what we are returning in over here. So we are returning the database, the connection, if the connection is successful and there is no error, which we have stored the connection over here in the db variable. So we will just bring it over here. Good. Now we have returned successfully the configuration, but in our function, you see, we said that we are returning the pointer of the configuration and an error. Good. So we are supposed to return two things, two parameters over here. So the first one is the pointer of the configuration and an error as well. So since if there is no error, we will just return the nil. Okay, to tell Go that there is no error. So and we will turn it. If you don't add it, we'll get an error because we specified that we are going to return both the pointer of the configuration and the error. Good. Now this is it. Now we have our database connection connected successfully. Now let's create our database and now connect it to it. So auth system is the name of our database. So now let's come inside our database php my admin, and in a database let's create it over here, auth system, and let's create it. Okay, so we have it created successfully, auth system. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video. If you have any comments, please put it in the comment section below, and in the next video we will continue with creating our user model, and then we will now migrate our model into our database table. Thank you.